Welcome to Built by Insights. It's cool to have you on the show today.
Thanks.
And today we have Renée Golobic with 1128 Architecture, and want to hear about who you are, your firm, the things that you're interested in, what inspires you in architecture, and how you're just an awesome architect. So let's unpack that.
Thanks.
Go back to the beginning. Tell me, who's Renée?
Everybody in the family are engineers. Dad, brothers, all engineers. So I think I just fell into place that I was going to be the civil engineer. And
A civil engineer.
A civil engineer. Because we have aeronautical, my dad, one brother's electrical, and the other one's mechanical. So the one thing we didn't have was civil. So I was going to be the civil engineer. And I couldn't get through EE classes because I couldn't see what the electricity. I can't see it. So for me, it's tangible. Like I want to touch it. But I really like math. So I moved through the engineering and then went from engineering to just a math major. And then I was actuarial science. And then I was like, I had learned at the time that was a high suicide rate job. So I was like, well, that doesn't seem like a very well-rounded career path or life choice. So I really like to do, I was creative. I wouldn't say I was had really skills of drawing aspects, but I was creative. I like to do projects and craft projects and sewing, and I've always been creative. So I was like, what could I do with math? And then architecture has math involved. Yeah. So I quickly changed my major to architecture. I loved it. That I loved everything about the courses, everything about being in the classes. I thought it was really it just brought both sides to, it was really connecting me on everything I was doing. And then one of my teachers, he was a construction management teacher. And I started working for him for extra credit, of course, have the students come out
Do the
and work
for free.
construction, right? I'll give you a credit. And so that's what I did for about a year with him. And then I graduated and he was like, come work for me. And I didn't want to be the woman in architecture that didn't know how to build a house. Yeah. So I framed houses for a couple years after I graduated.
There you go.
With him. So we would do the process. We would design the remodel, get it passed, get a permit, and then I would do the rough framing on the job. And then when it came to the more particular things at the end, I would switch off the job and go back to designing the next project.
Okay.
So that was talk about the reason why I started my own firm was to get back to that, to get back to, being able to be a little bit more connected with clients and in control of how things worked and not just be on the sidelines.
So that you went to CU.
I went to CU, yeah.
Okay. And you got your architectural degree.
Yep.
Right? And they have two different paths, right? There's the experience path, and then
I don't know what they have anymore.
It was something. Yeah. We've had a bunch of CU grads on the show. And people are like, oh, no, you got to go to Denver now if you want the architectural degree.
Right. If you want your master's in architecture, then you have to go to CU Denver.
Do you have your stamp?
Yes.
Okay, so you can stamp.
Yeah, I have a license.
License is what they call it, yes.
I do have a license. I felt like that was important. I think that when you hit different levels, when I was taking the test, there were 9 tests to get your license. So now there's not that many, but I think that when you reach that, you feel like now you can actually stand on your own 2 feet. But, every project and everything is always learning. I'm always learning on the next project, and then meeting a client and having different problems on each one. It's new every time. And that's what I truly love about it, that when I did work at a firm, I was doing commercial buildings, and it was asleep. I was asleep. So residential, I think commercial building is it was great. But I think that when you're meeting a client and they're dealing with something as important as their house and it's so close to their heart, every project is so different that you have to take it with care and like understanding what they want. So.
And you do that.
That's what.
You
That's
do
my
that.
goal.
Yeah. No, I mean, we were able to work on a project together, and you care for it differently than a lot of other architects that I know. So kudos to you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So how many years have you been doing this?
Well, my first throw of the hammer was 27 years ago when, I graduated from college and was working. And
who'd you work for? Who was the local? Are they still around?
He went to Wilsonburg, but his name's Bob Martin, and it was R. Martin Builders.
Okay.
And it was like 4 guys, me and Bob. And he was just...
He taught at the school?
He taught at the school. Yeah, he was construction management teacher. And we just had, he just opened his... he was really good at teaching and opened up his wealth of knowledge to all the kids.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And... he was an architect, a licensed architect, but he was also a general contractor. So I think that's what made him super special.
It's not the same anymore. Like, I think back to my dad. He was like a master carpenter, cutting everything from scratch, using hammers and nails, doing all the math. And then he got to go teach at Red Rocks. And, I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool. I think that art is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, all right, here's the plans. Here's all the detail. Takes some of the craftsmanship out of the rough framing stage. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I just think about passing on, your knowledge and legacy.
Yeah. Also, the technology changed so much. I learned in school where computer-aided drafting was a side note. We were still using Maylines and perspective drawings, and, that's what we were doing. We were using vellum and paper and pen. And I loved that craft. That's probably what got me so into it.
Was being able to be creative with your math.
Yeah. And having a product at the end that you were so proud of, building the little model. And even when I worked for firms right afterwards, it was in Colorado Springs, and I built this little, it's actually been built, but it's this little model of this cute little apartment building, and I had to build it out of museum board.
And now it's all done out of 3D printers.
Right.
Right. We get these little mock-ups of these houses from architects where they do the 3D printing, and, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But the art's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the technology has really changed and taken that part out of it.
So I have 3 daughters. Okay. I grew up in construction. There's not a lot of women in construction that can say, hey, we got to frame. Tell me what the challenge is, or what that meant for you. Because I think that's pretty empowering.
Yeah. I grew up with brothers. So, I was thrown around a lot.
Beat up?
Yeah. They were older than me. I think they would say differently that they would say differently now that I don't let anyone, throw me around. But I think that was the reason being, I never wanted to be second guessed. And I think in this field, we're always second guessed. Women are not. I think every time onto a job site with a different person, I have to kind of be like, no, I don't just draw this. I didn't just have this conversation with my client, and I just drew this because not knowing what I was doing, right? I looked at the project, I kind of understand how it can be built. And I'll be honest, if I don't know how this is going to go together, I'm hoping that I can work with the person that is building it to make it work. Because it's all about a community and a team. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be mistakes. And if it's not on me, it's not. It's the practice of architecture. So it's never perfection of architecture. It's the practice of architecture. So I think that we're always learning, and coming into the job, there's going to be mistakes. And if you have a team that's ready to move forward, that's the team.
1128. When did you start that? And what's the name mean?
Oh, well, the name is is my kid's birthday, November 28th. And I love numbers, so I loved the idea of like taking a number, and I was like, okay, what good number means something to me, because I just didn't want to pull some random numbers together, I guess. And so being that it was my child's birthday and it sounded great, and I was like, this is a go. Like once you know, like, I tried to pick out different numbers, like my birthday or something.
Some
and
Fibonacci code.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like went just to the heart, and I kind of like it.
When did you start on your own?
On my own officially probably was about 6 years ago, but I did do a lot of different side jobs before that. So I was working, I would take on, I think the first house I did was maybe 9 to 10 years ago with just a new build house. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And we just took pictures of it recently. Took my photographer over there, and they were super lovely to talk and be in that space. And that was probably the first one I did on my own, maybe called moonlighting is what we call it in our industry.
Yeah, that's fun. And so you went back and took pictures, and same owners?
Same owners.
All right.
Yeah.
Your clients.
Yep.
Interesting. It's like you get to go back 10 years later and be like, all right, well, what would you have done different?
Yeah. It might have been even longer. And you know how we grow old and we think it's only been that. But the one thing that was really interesting, because I've taken my photographer now to different homes to take pictures of it. And the clients, we kind of have a candid conversation or something. And the client was like, there were areas where you would push me to see something, and this area was brilliant. Like, I didn't even see this. And I really love to see this. So like when I get a plan, a lot of times people come with plans, and I'm like, okay, hold on, let me take a stab at it. And because people have lived in the space and they think it's right. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. I think this is a great idea. So this is option one, and let me just have a minute and have option two. And I think once you start to know how people use their spaces, and in general, like a pantry, like something simple as that, where maybe the client didn't really think of that because they don't want to see that. Or where are we going to put all the stuff functionally, what we're going to use. So he was giving me props to say that, he gave me a little pushback on what I thought. And then he moved forward and was like, this is really great. This was like the best idea. Yeah. So I do have, that seems to be a repeat thread in how, and my clients are like, well, this was a brilliant idea.
And
so
you're like, well, that's why you bring in a professional.
Yeah. And you can't just come straight out with because they have an idea, and you have to slowly work back from that to, kind of get in different ideas. And once they see it, then, and again, see it and feel it. So I like to really be in the space with them to talk about their different areas, because when you're in the space, they can see it sometimes and start to feel how, and I try to give them a picture and close the eyes, and then they can feel it. Where, again, I think that the little models that you were talking about is great, and the CAD models are great, and 3D rendering is great, but it's also cold. Yeah, so I think really sitting in the space and trying to get them to see it is helpful.
In your early architectural career, tell me one of your most difficult projects and why?
I mean, I'm going back to every project has, I don't think I've had a similar project ever. Every project is so different. And I mean, just recently we're digging out a basement. I mean, how easy is it to dig out a basement, right? Well, 10-foot basement, rubble foundation. We're talking, this is I can't even build a plan, because when you measure from rubble foundation to rubble foundation, you're 2 to 3 inches one way or the other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think one of the first projects I'm thinking of is like, which I've gotten to nuance it, but it really is trying to get the clients have an idea of having this office space on top of their roof, right? And trying to get them to nuance it so that it will make a better house, a better situation. But I think that I built a glass box on somebody's house.
Really?
So yeah.
So the technicality of the project, that doesn't make it good or bad. Or difficult. I mean, because there's always a way to solve for it. Do you have some difficult client experiences?
Well, Boulder's small, so
better not say. No, you're fine. We shouldn't.
I have. Yeah, I mean, clients calling in the middle of the night. I think boundaries. Starting out, you're so eager to make people happy. And I think making people happy can sometimes get in the way of good boundaries and good, business ethics. But, I mean, I'm sure when I was in my 20s, I got a call from the client when I was working with Bob. And my water's going out at 3 a.m, right? They have my number. They're calling me. And I'm like, what do you want me to do about it? Like, you don't have hot water and you don't have water? Like, it's 3 a.m. Go back to bed. I'll call you at 7. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And I think that was a time when I was like, I need to maybe go work in an office and just do office work instead of being in construction and architecture. And because clients just don't have boundaries. And I think that they don't have boundaries because it's their home. It's their heart.
Yeah.
You can either instill the boundaries. I think there's a gray area because a lot of my clients have turned to be good friends. And so that is, I think, a perk of the job. I also have clients that probably don't want to talk to me anymore. And I think part of when you go through this process, I will tell people it's like a flower. Love me not. Love me not. And I hope that it ends with love me, or you can see the reason why I chose to go down this path. And I try to express it in the way. And I think that having a good relationship with the builder makes the project so much better because there's just so many pointing the fingers. And then again, being the woman on the job, easy scapegoat.
Oh, no, not fair. Not fair.
But I think it is. I think that's fair because it's like, I mean, I've given out my design and then never heard anything back.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's built and I haven't even seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, great, because now it's not a liability for me. But like, I know all these conversations I had with the client on how it should be built. And now, I mean, even in the early ages of when I was working, it was like, well, wait a minute, like that was my baby and now it's gone. And
you do foster care with the emotions.
Yeah.
With the journey.
And so much of the design happens during construction. So much of it. Like I try to tell clients, like, if it's a financial burden, I will just come out, and as long as we max it to an hour, like let me come out and just, because all those conversations we had, I have all that. I know what you want. So let me just try to filter it. And when there's an opportunity, let's pause for a minute because we could make it so amazing. And getting the clients excited about the project, I think, is the number one thing about construction, is that if they come in and are like, I just want a kitchen. And you're like, okay, well, we could go through this and not. But if I get the client excited about the project and they're like super invested and they're like, oh my God, we can have this. Yeah. And that's been something that's a common thread through my projects, is getting the client excited. And I call it spider webbing.
All right.
So I was just talking to a previous client today. She was kind of blah about like what she wanted to do. And I was like, okay, well, let's just, talk about it. And, I will throw one idea out there, it'll come over here, and then throw another idea out there, it'll go over there, and they'll pick up on something. Like, for instance, in this case, it was a walnut slab raw edge, and she could see it and she could love it, right? And then you throw out another something, and as soon as the project's done, it is a beautiful spider web that at the start was just a couple lines, and at the end, it is this beautiful project that you've now gotten the client excited about. So, and she absolutely loves this little idea. It's like those little nuggets that get them to get excited about it, because it's a lot of money. It's not easy to remodel your house or to build a house. Mm-hmm. You're going in the trenches. Yeah. and then to come out the other side and have something that you love, you've got to find that piece in the project that you're going to love, and you're going to know sitting in there, this is what I want.
So in your architecture, you do remodels, you do new homes, all residential, not commercial?
I've done commercial in the past. I mean, I think when I was at the firm I was at, we only did basically commercial. That was why it was a little easier to do moonlighting in the residential field. But I think that right now, it like when this person gives out your name and it's mainly in residential, but I've done commercial in the past.
If you're so busy and you got a residential job and a commercial job, which one do you say no to?
Oh, definitely the commercial job, but I would say yes to any historical project.
Yes.
That's where I love that.
Tell me about historical. Why do you love that?
I do like old buildings. I think there's a soul to them. And it doesn't have to be, something that's 100 years old, or, it could be, 50 years old or something. But I think there was an art in how we built back then. And
built or the architecture? Or both?
Both. Because I think when you think of architects and we label them as the big ones that we know, I think they did both. I think that they built, they were artists, they sculpted, they, like Brunelleschi and Leonardo, they did it all, right? They weren't just one man. They didn't just, I'm only doing these drawings and then I'm out, right? They did everything across the board. And I think that there was a soul in that. And I think old buildings have that soul. And people live in the buildings and care for them. There's the soul of the building. You look at the old pictures of Boulder, there's like the building and then nothing else, right? And you're like, oh my God, this building. Yeah, there was no trees.
Yeah.
There was just the Flatirons and this house. And working at like Chautauqua, same thing. Like learn about those cottages and the teachers that came up from Texas to build it. Like I had one client that like her great grandfather built the building, built the house, and it could have been her grandfather. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, so like that to me, like again, there is soul in there. Like I feel like when you talk about, architect and in there, it turns away from the soul. Like there's so many things that go into a building, and the glamour of architecture kind of takes it away from me.
What era did that stop? Because it definitely stopped, right? I mean, it stopped at some point.
You mean
like
architects and building?
Yeah, just I live in a 1987. Yeah. Like it stopped before then.
It stopped before, I would say maybe 45 or 40s it might have stopped, because think about the 1950s ranch.
Yeah.
Right? It was manufactured house, right?
You could buy them out of the Sears catalog.
Right. I worked on that house.
Yeah.
The Sears catalog house up on the hill. I had done that one.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. But because you think about, like you talk about, every building has a soul, right? Mm-hmm. And not all of them. No, I think it stopped at some point because there's economics. There's more than, it being a home. It's just shelter. at some point. And we got more people coming in. We got miners. We need boxes for miners. We need, different things.
Yeah.
And so some of that, it's like, all right, is that historic? Well, it's historic because of the era, but age, but it's not really historic in, does it have a soul?
Yeah. I also think that like, that's who we were and we can't erase that aspect. So like, right, we have, different eras of architecture. And then you talk about like the manufacturer Sear Roebuck's home. Yeah. That was a thing. It's like taking away bell bottoms. Yeah. Like we're not going to take them away. Like that was a good time. Like we need to, I don't know if it necessarily is to save it, right? Or to put it on a pedestal, but it is an era that's like,
put it in a shadow box.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that a lot of the houses, I'm surprised when they are those Sear Roebuck's homes on the hill in a really nice neighborhood. So it come up with that. So it's, but I think I think that it could be about the people that live there. Because if you love your home and you make it your house, that's part of the soul of the house, even if it was a Sears Roebuck home.
So as an architect, what's your process to find out costing? Do you bring in a builder?
I will at the design development side, and I will bring in builders that I trust because I have gotten burned that the builder then steals the project and takes it on to the design drawings.
Oh, that's a little weird.
I've had that like twice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's more in line with, people, it happened twice where they told the clients that, well, I can finish out the permit and the drawings for you. And then what happens is that's how they get the job. So they're not going to bill you for finishing the design, the drawing, right? And getting it to permit, because then they get the job. And I think there's a decent amount of money to make in the building side that they probably can recoup their costs.
This is what we like to do as a builder is we like to get in at the conceptual level, because then you get into the design development and you're already spending money that you're like, oh wait, we got to shift. If we can get in there in that conceptual phase, it's not that hard. If there's plans, we can digitize it and use our historical square footage numbers to say, hey, here's some realistic allowances for the main line items. Now, your lighting, your cabinets, your tops, your tile, we can create an allowance, but you can spend what you want. But then if we have a real, like, hey, we have this many, square feet of under frame. Well, our historical under frame material number is X. Now that can vary because you're going to have your architectural requirements, engineering requirements that will shift that, but not huge. And then labor. And so we really try and get in the conceptual level to say, are we designing that to the right space? And then you can provide that to the architect and be like, oh, now I see. What if here's the drivers to the cost of this? So, because sometimes at design development, it's, you get to the point where you're like, all right, we have engineering, but now we got to take this part of the house off.
Yeah, I would say that I think that we're both talking about the same place in the project. I probably wouldn't. I would probably, if the design costs, if the cost we had a set number of money, and we wanted to do a relatively big project, I would bring it in probably right at the kind of doing the engineering. But like the engineering, we might have done just a dry run, right? Like I would put how this is, kind of going to go together and had a conversation with the engineer, because that is also helpful for you to know, like, am I spanning with a steel beam or a microlam, or if I'm putting in, like, what kind of structure am I doing? Am I doing a moment frame? Like, that's going to drive up the cost.
Yeah.
So, like, knowing, a nano wall moment frame And then, but also having a little bit of an extra roadmap for that. And then having the builder come in. At the conceptual phase, I feel like we want to get you guys a good roadmap so that we can, get their wishes on paper, not just a list. Because how do you, and I think this is the hard part for clients is like, how I need a cost for this addition or this house. Okay, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Give me a price.
Yeah. Give me a call. I mean,
right.
I mean, we have there, if we've been in business 26 years, we got, 35 projects plus a year. Mm-hmm. We done just about everything.
Yeah.
And so like architects will call us and be like, hey, what about this?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, okay, I might use this kind of factor to at least say we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because there's oftentimes I'll get plans fully engineered and they're like, hey, the architect said it should cost around X.
Oh, God.
And I say this all the time, have the architect build it then.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen,
yeah.
And so you don't want to, I like to get involved early because you don't want to see those plans die, you know? I mean, because they didn't start out right.
Yeah.
So.
And the double-edged sword is, I think that there's a place to sit at the table for everyone.
Yeah.
And then as long as, again, we're working as a team, I think it can happen. I think that architects usually push forward because it's their design. Yeah. So why should the cost matter?
For the architect.
Right. Why? I mean, this is their...
It depends on your client.
This is their baby.
Yeah.
I mean, there's enough falling water. I mean...
So we got to have the clients that don't have a budgetary constraint.
Right. I mean...
It's a balance.
Yeah. It is. It's definitely a balance. And it's like, I think each project is probably different to figure out when to bring them on board, right? I mean, I think it has to be, if we have this cost at the front and we're building from scratch a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and my clients want like falling water versus the track home, that is going to be something that you need to know. Mm-hmm. So let's do a little bit of a drawing to figure out what the cost would be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So fully engineered plans or a permit set and then bringing it to them. But I've done both. I've come up with, between conceptual and design development, and we don't meet that. We're right on schedule, and then we keep moving forward, and then the climate in the building industry changes, and now we're 20%, 30% more, right? So, and who's to say like you're going to pick, the client's going to pick, so if they called me and then I'm going to, come to the builder, be like, we need to meet with them. Let's go there. I mean, I like to have the clients drive, like, do you connect with this person?
Yeah.
And I think that's important too, when you're meeting and interviewing, it's an interview both ways. Because I got to be able to communicate with you and you've got to be able to communicate with me. And if we know at the first initial interview that it's not going to work out both ways for us, then I get to say no too. Mm-hmm. But you've got to be able to work with them. And I tell them, I'm like, the cost is going to be the cost. A 2x4 at the store is a 2x4 at the store, right? Now, everybody has their way. And I think that the building industry has this bad taste in their mouth, right? Because this guy's marking it up 40% and this other guy marks it up 20%, And so I think people hear about the bad, everybody hears about the bad ones, and I think that...
are they bad or is it just a different model?
Well, bad and good and bad are all, Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a different model, but when you walk away and say, I was just at this like women's group the other day and she's like, oh, if only I would have, we've just gone through this horrendous. It is so bad. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, you've just now tainted their house, right? Like, it was a Marshall Fire rebuild. Mm-hmm. And they worked with somebody and way over budget. We can circle this back to yours. But, they had a set amount of money and the builder just negated the whole cost. Like, it was over by like tenfold, she said. She's like, he never looked like every time we made decisions, it was based on, him and not on, we kept saying, like, at one point we ran out of money and we're like, we're done. Mm-hmm. We have to go. Like, we don't have any more money. And she, there's two sides to the story, right? So I didn't speak to the builder side, but I've heard about this a lot in the Marshall Fire rebuilds is that, there was a few people that were taking advantage of it in the situation. And then it's hard to come in and be like, okay, I understand that. And I'm not going to do that. But how do I make them trust you again?
Yeah.
Right. So I think you can have a great experience. I think that Peggy had a great experience.
Yeah. What do you think is a fair model for a general contractor?
Transparency.
I
think it's fair to mark it up. And I think it's just that as long as you communicate that with the client, I think, I don't think it's fair when someone comes out and you've marked up this guy 200% and that's not the agreed upon situation. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's where we kind of get the bad taste in our mouth.
Yeah.
Where I've met guys who's worked on jobs and the concrete costs $30,000 to do, and they charge the client $120,000.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So because they could charge the client that, right? Because that was what, again, I guess it starts from the front. Like, is it a fixed bid?
Yeah.
Right? Or is it a cost plus? Is it,
What do you think is, because in remodel or custom homes, is a fixed bid or a cost plus arrangement better?
I would never do a fixed bid.
If your clients are asking you, hey, these guys are cost plus and these guys are fixed bid, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that the fixed bid is padded a lot and there'll be no transparency and that's what you'll pay and there'll be change orders on top of it and you will pay more than that. Yeah. And then with the cost plus, you're able to drive the ship again, because do you want Carrara marble or do you want Caesar stone? And if I can control the price, but if I leave it as a fixed bid, I'm going to try to give as much out of it as I can. And they're not in this to not make money. Like, this is our job. Like, we survive on this money. We provide food to our family on this money. We're not buying houses and having an island somewhere with what we're doing. So I think that the fair way of doing it is, our time and our money. So I think that cost plus, I have had clients where they only want fixed bids.
Yeah. It's people will come and ask that. And I'm like, this is a remodel, right? We're going to open this wall up and it's going to be different than it's drawn. And we don't do it that way because we're experienced. We know how the project and the construction unfolds. Yeah. Transparency and also communication. Mm-hmm. Communication is what's going to help that process, right? And give the clients control. Say, hey, here's an option. If we do this, it's going to cost, X. But if we do this, we could save some money. and communicate that through and give the option to the client.